Okay, good folks. Listen up, take notes. I want to show you 4 video clips. I want to show you some video clips. That's just in case we don't do all 4. So let me try it again. I want to show you some video clips that suggest why transformation is absolutely essential at APHIS and USDA. Remember, I want you to say, if we work for a federal agency, say that. If we work for a federal agency, that agency has discriminated. And that agency has to take steps to correct the errors of the past. And you're about to see Dennis Blair, used to work with the intelligence community. He was an admiral in the Navy. And watch what he says about the agencies that he's worked with and how they took steps to correct it.
But the second event that's made a major impact on my life in this respect was the role that I was privileged to play in righting some significant wrongs that were done to American racist leaders within the Army who disapproved the awards, who discouraged junior officers and enlisted men from even being submitted for awards. And that was in addition to the effect of the general segregation of Army units that was in effect at the records of several particular soldiers to see what could be done about it. So the Army did that. And it was those records which were truly amazing stories of valor and a privilege to be involved in that process. Bitter because of the fact that this courage and endurance had not been recognized at the time, but sweet that it was finally happening because of the families of those who had earned them. And he presented the medal itself in person to one man, Lieutenant Vernon Baker, the only one of the group who is still living. Now that event also set the stage for a similar review of the record of Asian Americans in world. And quite simply, those 2 events, watching how long it had taken, watching the talent and fortitude and valor that had been expended for the country and that had not taken advantage of nor neglect to recognize the service of all of those. And that's especially true when it comes to recognizing those heroes within our ranks, the ones who go above and beyond the call of duty. And in particular, we in the intelligence community cannot afford to make mistakes like that, to ignore or hold back in another country. The intelligence community is a community that benefits by being as diverse as possible so that we can better understand people around the world. So it's the right thing to do. It makes us more effective.
Did stuff wrong in the past that we never should have done. We violated our core values. We went against our laws and our Constitution. Or tragically, our laws were in conflict with our constitutional ideals. So we obeyed the law while we violated our ideals. We certainly treated people badly, and that was wrong, and we took steps to correct that. USDA did some wrong things in the past, and your agency is taking steps to correct that. And the next thing he says is, be careful, don't make mistakes like that in the future. Because not only is that wrong to do, it jeopardizes our ability to be effectiveness. So notice he's saying, EO, we have to respond to discrimination, and diversity, we have to respond to the new demographics. Our future depends on it. Now what I'm going to do is that I want to show you a clip from the series Carrier. PBS spent 6 months in the Nimitz, SS Nimitz, basically following sailors and clipping together 10 stories that were put on television on the series Carrier. If you've ever wondered about racism and about equal opportunity, watch this tape. Two sailors on a beach on Guam with a little too much to drink. And the white sailor says, I am a racist. And the African American confronts him. Watch. It is an absolutely remarkable encounter on a beach far away when two Americans, one black and one white, confront the reality of racism and what must be done about it in order for people to transform and solve the challenge.
Well, you know, talk to you. All right, I'm good. Let me tell you something about myself before you get to know me. Okay. I'm getting kicked out of the Navy for racism. I have 2 accounts against black guys. But I mean, I still like you guys and I respect you. And I'm talking to you right now.
All right.
That's the way I was raised, man.
Don't ask you, are you guilty of it?
Yes, I am.
So let me ask you.
You're talking to a racist right now. I mean, we're shaking hands, roll on.
Of course.
Yeah,
Of course.
it ain't my fault.
All right.
I joined the Navy, that was the wrong decision.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. I'm gonna tell you why it
I've
wasn't.
been in 1 year now, they discharged me.
No, listen to me. It wasn't the wrong decision. I'm gonna tell you like this. The Navy is a melting pot. When you join the Navy, you join like different nationalities, different cultures, different everything. Say, for example, the 5th deck gets flooded. I happen to be there, you're drowning. I'm not going to sit there and let you die because you're a racist. You're my shipmate, and I hope you do the same for me, not because I'm black.
I do the same for everybody to save your life.
Exactly. Let me ask you a question. Would you call me a nigger after this conversation?
I'd be cool with you.
Right. You know what? And let me tell you like this. It ain't about nigger, it ain't about cracker, it ain't about spit. That's about none of that.
I know I shouldn't judge you by their color.
But it's the way that you were raised.
Yes.
But even in that, there's no excuse. You know what's right from what's wrong, right? If you adapt yourself to be around different cultures, you learn about different people and what they experience in their life, and that will change you overall. Think about it. Come on. If I can get through one person, I've made a difference.
Yeah.
If you can teach your children not to be the same way you were raised, then we can make a difference.
Is that powerful? Yeah. Applause. These are not actors. These are real Americans confronting the fact that whatever the popular culture told us about each other, we need to have essential conversations so that we can break the tradition and the script of rejecting each other or even hurting each other. I want you to write this down because I think it's a wonderful principle. Say, we must not assume malice. Say that. Even when harmful things are done. Don't assume malice, assume incompetency. In this particular case, the young racist says, that's the way that I was raised. That was the way that I was taught. I am normal. And the young African American says, but that still is no excuse, because you can fix it and make it better for the next generation. See, that's transformational. I get inspired when I see this clip because it tells me that we don't have to fight to destroy each other. We struggle to liberate each other. when President William Jefferson Clinton visited with the president of South Africa, Nelson Mandela, Mr. Mandela took him on a tour of Robben Island, and they spent some time in the cell in which Mr. Mandela spent 27 years of his life. And Mr. Clinton looks at the president of South Africa and says, "And you forgave them, and they stole your youth." And Mr. Mandela said, "Mr. President, if I had not forgiven them, I would still be their prisoner." Give me a bam. Amen. So all of us come with baggage. All of us have a history at one time or another of being part of the problem. And all of us at one time or another have a history of being part of the solution. So let's build on that part of the tradition, that we have taken steps to correct the errors of the past. And it's in that spirit that we participate in transformation. I want you to say, remember the Titans. Remember the Titans. See, Coach Boone had white kids that were normal, and by virtue of being normal, they didn't like black kids. And he had black high school students that by virtue of being normal, didn't like white students. And what he did is instructive for transformational leadership. Team them up. Whenever you have somebody who is a member of a group that has been dominant, and in the workplace meets with a person who was a member of a group that was subordinate, and they have a history perhaps of those groups not getting along. If you want to eliminate prejudice and the potential for discrimination, team them up to pursue common goals. And that's when you get rid of prejudice and discrimination. Team them up across status inequality lines. And that's what he did. Remember the Titans is an excellent film that demonstrates what Gordon Allport found to be true in the book, The Nature of Prejudice. If you want to break down prejudice, team people that come from different status in terms of inequality to pursue common goals, and that's how we learn to respect each other. And I suspect that the young man in the Navy, if those young men have been teamed up before, maybe that young man didn't need to be kicked out of the Navy. So remember this, if you're a supervisor and you bring people in from a group that historically has not been there to work with a group that historically has been there, and they don't have a history in terms of those groups of getting along, what do? What's the solution? Team them up to pursue common goals. And thus, when the evangelical Branch Rickey from Ohio, the manager of the Brooklyn Dodgers, clearly understood, we're going to have to do some racial mixing to win championships. We're going to have to do some gender mixing to pursue excellence in our workplace. And Jackie Roosevelt Robinson was recruited. He was light-skinned, he could play ball, he went to UCLA, he was articulate. Nevertheless, the manager basically said, Pee Wee Reese, are you with me? And Pee Wee Reese from Kentucky, Southern boy, teams them up. And they became an extension of each other's best self. And when Dixie Walker said, I ain't playing with no Negro, they traded him to St. Louis. You cannot do transformation unless the top leadership and the supervisors and the managers are engaged in the process at the level of mid-management in taking responsibilities to get mission done across identity lines. And so on April 15, 1947, Jackie Roosevelt Robinson took to the field and baseball was changed forever. And one of the heroes in the Jackie Roosevelt Robinson story is a white male called Branch Rickey, and the other one is Pee Wee Reeves. And Branch Rickey told Jackie Robinson, sit on your urges, don't fight back, give me an opportunity for this thing to work. So if you put in a situation that perhaps a member of your group has never held before, and some people are skeptical. Right now, if you ask people at USDA that we're going to do diversity training, a lot of people are going nuts in the blogosphere, because they think that this is crazy, when in reality you know that this thing works and is positive and is good for mission. People don't know what they don't know. So take leadership. And what you're about to see is a clip from Remember the Titans. Coach Boone had a policy that if you made the football team, you could not get rifted. You couldn't be kicked out. However, the captain of the team notices that a white member of the team is messing things up and sabotaging the process, so he wants to do something about it, which says that even when the leadership takes a strong public position at USDA, that things must change. When you hear people trying to sabotage you, stand up and take a position and support your decision to make sure that we get a chance to get it right for our generation. Give me a bam. Watch this clip. And by the way, that was a time when if I was black and you were white female and I even said hello to you, that was offensive, because I was not fully human and had no right to do that. And if the police were close by, they could put me away for simply being gracious and saying good morning. That was the climate in which this movie takes place. Watch.
Right? You're out. What? I'm not gonna let you play
Hey, Nelly, who don't cut anybody? Remember, Gary? I know you cut away. You willing to just throw away our friendship for them? You keep on. Now I've been happy days, thinking about the things to come, and I believe it could be something good happened. Oh, I've been smiling. Also, heck of a game before starting last night. Thank you. Best defense I've seen in 20 years. Tell that coach yours to keep up the good work. Oh, yeah, I'll do that. And your taxi had a siren. Superman! Hey, how's it going on?
Amazing, isn't it? And so success in the team expanded to success in the larger community. Isn't it amazing that at the beginning of the second full decade of the 21st century, there are some of us sitting right here who cannot remember in their lifetime, in their great-grandparents' home, or grandparents' home, or parents' home, or tragically in our own homes, never really remember anybody being our guest from a different group, people that look different or worship different than us, who had access to our kitchens. That's how you measure whether somebody is a real friend, is whether they can walk right to the kitchen. I love this film. The last clip you're about to see comes from the Carrier series. The concept of shooters are the people that send the planes off from the aircraft carrier and the team that has to make sure they're able to land safely, which is not easy to do, especially at night or during a storm, even during normal circumstances. Say circles of trust. These are the people that lift our morale. These are the people that we know as friends. And these are the people that we get to know. And by virtue of getting to know them, we're able to recommend them for additional responsibilities. But if they're not members of our circles of trust, we won't do so. I noticed that in the workplace in the United States of America, that if you're a smoker, you tend to meet people that you otherwise wouldn't know. How you doing? Okay, you know. And over the years, you make friendships and you break out of your traditional circles, and you will find yourself recommending people not because they smoke, but because you got to know them while they were smoking with you. And so until you are prepared to take a leave of absence from your comfort zone and to expand your circles of trust, you will not be able to appreciate and to understand that there are other people in the organization that have a lot to offer for the sake of mission excellence. So what I want you to do is watch how we hold on dearly to our circles of trust and how we keep them close to others, and how that is wonderful on the one hand and horrible for the sake of transformation. Watch this short clip from the series Carrier.
circle of trust when we know those people. And we get them out and encourage them, like the old school days, encourage them. That's Captain Dufour on the outskirts. He's always trying to invade us. He tries to come over like that, and then I'll put Brooks over here and block him. And then you have some GAB shooters that come over from the status. And they get the merit in there just a little bit, but you know what? They're only here for a temporary amount of time, then we just kick their ass.
Money makes the rules. We just live in this world.
We talk about what goes on the flight deck, come back down here and have a good time, move around, and boom, back on the deck, place working.
Please notice that we're not saying that you should not have circles of trust. We're not suggesting, for example, that you ought not to have lunch with the people you have lunch with. Maybe 5 times during the lunch, you'll have lunch with them all 5 times. We're suggesting that perhaps once a week is networking day. I saw you with that white guy over there. What's with that? It's Friday. Be cool, okay? I didn't know you were gay. I'm not gay. What was going on over there? It's Friday. We're just networking. We're not saying that you shouldn't have circles of trust. We're saying that if you're going to do transformation, you got to know more about other folks than the one you normally work with and relate to. Give me a band. Okay, now, what I'm about to do is I'm going to ask you, I'm going to shift gears here. So if you're physically able, and don't leave the room now, please stand up and give people 5. Slap some skin around. All right, my good people. Okay, that's called restoring our levels of alertness. Good people, listen. We're coming to the home front. I got one more piece that I want to go through. And then I want to give you a chance to interact and to relate. So be thinking about the 2 most significant lessons learned. And what, as a result of those lessons learned, will you have to stop doing in order to assist USDA and APHIS in the quest of transformation. In the book by Jim Collins, Good to Great, he says that when leaders realize that things are not working out like they wanted to work out, the first thing a great leader asks is, what must I stop doing? If you are in a relationship that is flat, the question is what? What must I stop doing? If you got some addictions that rob your time and your purposes in life, what is the question? If you're not comfortable with people that are different than you, and this is the reality of a changed workplace, what is the question? And so be thinking about that. What must I stop doing? And then the other thing that you want to be able to think about is, how do I inconvenience myself so that I could develop the emotional intelligence that is essential for us to make coalitions of interest and not coalitions of color in order to get transformation done? That's huge and that's powerful. So now, here's the deal. Going to give you a quiz, but because we don't have a lot of time, I want you to know that all the answers are false. It's Friday. So are you with me? All right, now listen carefully. These are faulty assumptions that people have about diversity and inclusion. All right? All right. I want you to answer in one voice with power and authority. True or false? Diversity promotes. True or false? Let me start all over again. Because I'm not supposed to give my head like that, because it don't look good in the video. Well, that's what Susan said. True or false? Diversity promotes differences over talent. False. False. If you have to choose between differences and talent, choose talent every time. And if you found, for example, that you have only prepared certain people to exercise leadership at certain levels, and they turn out to be homogeneous, and they're largely or mostly or all white males, and they are the only ones that you have qualified, whom do you choose? Choose white men. Why? Because they are the ones who are qualified. And remember, diversity is not about representation, it's about utilization. Now, listen carefully. If you only qualify white males in an increasing heterogeneous workplace, you're doing it wrong. We need women's ways of knowing alongside white males. We need African Americans and people from different countries who are part of this great mission alongside white males. I want you to look at somebody next to you and say, if you have an accent, you know more than one language. Go ahead, try to do that. Hello? I think it's Dr. Wayne Dyer who says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Give me a bam. So, choose the people you qualify, and if you're not getting inclusive teams through the process that you're putting in place, take steps to qualify people that you have not been qualifying. However, don't you ever go public in suggesting that the leadership of APHIS at USDA is saying that in the name of diversity, we have to put people up there who are not qualified to do the job. That's not true. Are you with me? Give me a bam. All right. True or false? Oops. All right. True or false? Diversity training courses and white male bashing go hand in hand. False. White males founded the USDA. Say thank you, white males. I know it got stuck. Some of you couldn't get it out. I understand. Let's try that again. Go ahead. Now, notice I'm not saying thank you for slavery or sexism or what happened to the indigenous Native American folks. I'm saying thank you for what? Establishing the agency in which those of us that are not white males seek to play a larger role. And if they hadn't done it and put it in place, we wouldn't be seeking to play a larger role in it. So we start with gratitude before we deal with grievances. Give me a bam. We've got grievances. This institution, like all federal institutions, have not been fair. We've got grievances. But we start with what? Before what? If our goal is for collaborative, inclusive, diverse, mission-driven teams, we start with gratitude. And that does not mean that somehow we diminish the contributions of others. For African Americans, for example, finding themselves treated historically as the machines of a pre-industrial age. took on the tools of democracy. And through the freedom of speech, marched and prayed and protested and challenged America to live up to its creed. Visit the Martin Luther King Memorial in teams, in inclusive teams. I'll never forget Dr. King's eloquence when he was accused. Surely, Dr. King, you cannot legislate love. No, I may not make you love me, but I can keep you from lynching me. The laws that he wanted to change were the laws that destroyed our dignity and our humanity. You know, there's something interesting. When I close the door to you, the front door, and I have to allow you to come into the back door because you were not human enough to come to the front door. Did you know that at that particular moment, I was reinforcing your inhumanity? And by me having to walk in the front door, I was acting how? Inhuman. So the moment that my sister says, I'm going to the front door and I'm going to affirm my humanity and my freedom, at that particular moment, to the degree that I have to bring you into the front door, you also reinforce upon my humanity and your humanity. And together we can make an extension of each other's quest to make America stronger, healthier, and freer to work for all of us. Say thank you, black folks. Say thank you, black folks. I want you to say America was founded by outsiders. Say that. Who are today's insiders. We get very nervous about today's outsiders. I want you to say the pilgrims were illegal aliens. Say the pilgrims never gave their passport to the Indians. Good people, let's not be fools. Let's protect our borders. But if there are people within our borders who are working here unauthorized by their status, and treat them with respect, let's search for solutions that work for all of us. Are you with me? Give me a bam. And in that spirit, remember, be kind to strangers, because the Judeo-Christian tradition says you were once strangers in Egypt too. Give me a bam. So we have to figure it out. If it worked for the pilgrims, it could work for other groups as well. And it's in that spirit. But we start with gratitude, not with grievances. Give me a bam. True or false, diversity initiatives must be led by women and or minorities. False. It's false. If the secretary and the director are not embracing this transformational leadership by applying diversity intelligence to create inclusive, mission-driven teams that are more productive, this is not going to go anywhere. And I'm glad that as far as APHIS is concerned, the leadership is on board. Give me a bam. Amen. Minorities are more likely to fail in technical areas because they're not as intelligent. True and false? False. By the way, I don't like the word minorities. How about emerging majorities? All right. Don't. Easy. Down. But people label minorities are more likely to fail in technical areas because they're less intelligent. True or false? It's false, and I'll tell you why it's false. But perhaps more important, let me explain. Let me explain why they may not lack intelligence, but they might fail. I want you to say Yuri Treisman. Say Yuri Treisman. Say Dr. Yuri Treisman. Treisman. Dr. Yuri Treisman. He was a graduate student at Berkeley in the 1970s. He noticed something very interesting. He noticed that African Americans, Asians, whites, and Hispanics were qualified to enter Berkeley. They had high SAT scores. So they were qualified to get in. But once they got in, he noticed that in calculus class, the whites were doing well, but not the African Americans. The Asians, especially the Chinese students, were doing well, but not the Latinos. So he dismisses the hypothesis that says, oh, it's simply the minorities are not as intelligent. But he couldn't come up with a counter hypothesis. So what he did, Yuri Treisman did as a graduate student, is that he followed them and took notes to see what was different in their behavior that might explain why the Asians were doing well, why the whites were doing well, but not the blacks or the Latinos. Everything was the same. Same teachers, same textbooks, same teachers' assistants, projects, homework. Everything was the same. Lecture, everything was the same. Except that after they went to supper, I don't know if you've been to one of those private universities, but they have what they call the student union. And at that time, you shot a little pool. In those days, we had to make some phone calls. You don't have no idea what that is. But I'll explain it later. And they horsed around, they watch a little TV, and afterwards, what do students do or did? They went to do what? To study. They went to do their homework. And that's when their behavior changed. The white students would huddle in small group. I want you to say small group discussions multiply learning. Say that. Say mission-driven small group discussions multiply learning. So 4 white males would get together and they would say, you know, these are the 4 things that I found in this chapter. I think the professor is going to focus on that. Here's a particular problem that I think will come up, and so forth and so on. And they related and they share, they study in small groups to multiply learning. The Chinese students went one step further. If they found out that there was a problem that none of them could solve in their discussion, they brought in one of their uncles, engineers, and the uncle just broke it down and whatever. And then Yuri Treisman, who eventually teaches at the University of Texas at Austin, found out that African Americans did not study in small groups. They study as individuals. And he noticed that Latinos, the few that were there, when time came to study, they study alone as individuals. So Yuri Treisman followed them and asked them why. And as a result of that, he writes his doctoral dissertation, studying students, studying calculus. And here's what he found out. This is huge. He found out that if you were a Hispanic or an African American, for the most part, you were a first-generation college student. You were a what? First-generation college student. Means your parents did not graduate from high school, let alone college, so you did not have the social capital of people that were there before that could alert you about what it is you had to do or not do in order not only to get into Berkeley, but get through Berkeley. Stay with me on that one. They were first-generation college students. Now, if you happen, imagine, if you happen to be black from the hood and you want to get into Berkeley,